If you find every supply and demand technique you apply destroys your growth and you're not sure where you're going wrong, I will share those top supply and demand trading mistakes you might be making so you can start making more profits with less losing trades. So at some point in your life, you've been to the amusements, the arcades, right? And you've had to go on those slot machines. Now we all know we have a 50-50 chance of winning, but applying the right strategy, you could potentially increase those odds. Now the same could be said with a supply and demand trading strategy. And when you're actually marking out your zones of supply and demand, you need to be marking them out in a correct format so you actually increase those odds of having a winning trade. And that's the first big mistake that you are making with supply and demand zones. And you're drawing them incorrectly by drawing your zones off the body of the candle. Now, when drawing an area of supply, you need to be drawing the body as well to the high of the wick. Now the same is said for an area of demand. You need to include the wick to the downside when you draw your area of demand. Now this again will stop you being stopped out prematurely before the trade goes in your favor. Now perhaps you already draw your areas of supply and demand just by using those bodies on the candle. Now if you do and you're having losing trades and you're now realizing that this potentially could be the reason you're having more losing trades, leave a comment below, let everybody know how it's affected you in your trading and how this could potentially turn your trading around. So any good trader will have a collection of trades they've taken. You have a diary of your trades, and many people will like to print those out and have them on their desk ready at first hand to see before you take another trade if this trade has worked in the past. Now, perhaps you have your pieces of paper all over your desk for each of these trades. Now, what this is doing is cluttering up your desk. And when you need to find that piece of paper quickly before you take that trade, perhaps you can't find it and you end up having a missed trade, or even worse, a losing trade. What you need to do is declutter that desk, form your piles of winning and losing trades so you can find that trade quickly and effectively. Now the same can be said for supply and demand. You don't want to clutter up those charts. You want a nice, clean, crisp chart, knowing where to take your trade entries from. And that's mistake number 2 that I'm seeing many traders making, that they are drawing every single supply and demand zone on their chart. Now what does this create? This can create anxiety in your trading because basically you've got the fear of missing out and you want to take a trade of every single zone of supply and demand. Now perhaps this is happening to you right now. If it is, remember, let us know below how it affects your trading when you are doing this. So this one mistake you need to change right now, and you need to start drawing out just 2 zones of supply and demand on your chart at any one time. Now, so what you need to do is you need to be drawing the first zone of the origin of the move. So if you're in a downtrend, we'll be looking at the high of the swing to be forming that area of supply as we see the market dropping down, breaking structure. That is your origin of supply you need in the market. And your second zone would be the zone if we see a pullback before we break structure. When we break structure in the market, that zone could also act as a great zone of supply to take a trade from. Now the opposite for an area of demand, we're looking for that higher low to form an uptrend, but we're looking for that to be our origin of the move demand zone. This demand zone is always going to be your best zone to take a trade from, then drawing every zone on the chart. And again, you'll be looking to take a trade as well off that area of demand created before we break structure if we have that pause in the market before we continue higher in the trend. So don't have that anxiety and don't have that emotion of the fear of missing out in your trading with supply and demand. Change this mistake right now and start having more consistent and more profits in the market using just 2 zones of supply and demand when you're trading. And that now brings us to the final growth destroying mistake that many supply and demand traders are making, and that is using one single time frame to trade supply and demand with. That's the worst thing you could do as a supply and demand trader. You need to be using at least 2 or 3 time frames with multiple time frame analysis. This is how you will succeed as a supply and demand trader. The worst thing you could do is if you're looking to take a trade, let's say off a 1 hour area of supply to trade down, and at that time you're actually on a daily time frame, you're inside an area of demand. So what you're basically doing, you're trying to sell into a higher time frame zone of demand, and that's how you're going to have more losing trades. Now this can be frustrating. So if you was actually using 2 time frames and you was watching the daily time frame at the area of demand and you waited for that 1 hour time frame to approach into the demand zone, and then you look for the reversal out on the 1 hour, this is how you can increase your chances of a winning trade and also give you a higher risk to reward win rate. So I encourage you to use multiple time frame analysis when it comes to a supply and demand strategy. So remember, these 3 big mistakes is what I'm seeing is affecting trades right now. So change those mistakes and start having more consistent profits in the market with supply and demand. And if you want to get ahead of order flow analysis, you need to watch this video right now so you can understand how that can improve your trading going forward even more.